Craig, it seems that all 872 children of mine are sick. Will you help me? Craig, please, help me. You're my only hope. Who do we have on the show today?
Oh, Jason, I don't know how you do it, Mr. Jason. With that many hundreds of little monkeys running all over the place. But I'll tell you, we've got Dr. Stephen Cabral, and he's gonna get natural, get you healthy, eliminating the rain barrel effect. Ooh, let's get it on.
Buckle up, it's the Insurance Dudes podcast.
Usually it's Jason and Jason has 4 kids, all of them sick.
Oh, wow.
So it's the first time he's ever called out. So here we go. And you're a tough man to pin down. So we're gonna try it solo.
Okay.
We like to bring, not just talking about insurance, but how they can better manage their lives and then impact their business up here. Instead of learning how to sell better, I think how to take care of yourself better is you're going to get a multiple on that investment.
Absolutely, yeah, and do more of if that's a career, especially that you see yourself doing for the long term, which I know a lot of insurance people do, because they can do it if they decide to part time and whatever it might be. Is being able to have the energy and vitality to do that for a long period of time.
Yeah. Something that, it impacted me as well, but something that, especially in the beginning, it's finding balance and, really managing that work life and that home life. And I know that there is a lot of blur, especially as I have other businesses like this and some other ones, but often as we get older, I think we start to do the things that we really love and realize that you can't put a value on that. So the lines do blur, but you have to really focus on yourself, on your mental, on your spiritual, on your physical health. Otherwise, who cares, right? Because you're not going to last very long. So, well, Dr. Cabral, welcome to the Insurance Dudes. I like to really unpack it. We unpack this with the first question that you probably haven't ever been asked on a podcast, which is, what is the first concert you ever went to?
That's a great question, and now you're making me think. I think it was the Dave Matthews Band in high school. Yeah,
nice.
I was a late bloomer to concerts, but once I started in high school, I used to go quite a bit. Yeah,
I saw Dave open for the Grateful Dead in the early '90s. So
very nice.
That's pretty cool. And I'm wearing
right around. That would be right around the same time, mid '90s for sure. That's where
cool. Where was it?
I used to go to Great Woods. Well, back then it was called Great Woods in Foxborough, Mass, where I'd go to see a bunch of shows. And then there's this beautiful theater that's still around. Oh, actually, I think it may have just closed, called the Orpheum Theater in Boston. And it only seats a couple hundred people. And when up-and-coming bands come to town, that's where they play. And it's awesome. Phenomenal to see a show. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Perfect. Well, I'm glad you brought a good one. Dave Matthews is something else. I have a business partner that actually works with Tony Robbins, and he just went on a honeymoon, or not a honeymoon, but a retreat with his wife. I can't remember. It was either in Aspen or it was in Tahoe, and Dave Matthews was playing there. That's why they went. So they were going to the band, but Dave actually stayed at the same hotel they were staying at, and they saw him. They took pictures with him. So pretty cool.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
it's very cool.
Yeah. It's it's like meeting their hero. So,
talk about longevity in a career. I mean, I think he's still going. That's impressive.
It is. It definitely is, and that's a tough career to find the balance. And I think we could look at all the 28-year-olds that didn't make it past 28, right?
For sure, you're on the road 300 days a year or so. Just touring and getting your name out there and performing. So it's not easy.
Yeah. Well. So for those of us, or those in our audience who aren't familiar with your name or don't know what you do, could you drop a little intro on what you do, and then let's get back to the beginning, like how you got into what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a functional medicine practice in Boston, Massachusetts, but really it's a virtual practice now. So I used to have a very large wellness center, 2 locations actually. And about 2016, when I started my podcast, I said, I want to reach more people. I mean, that was really the bottom line. That was the end of it, because we had been doing that about 20,000 appointments per year and meeting with so many great people. But when you look at it, I said, okay, so what now can I do? Should I open another center? And I can't see more people myself personally. So I said, why don't I simply teach like you're doing? Why don't I teach what I know works? And I know this works because I'm going to still see the same amount of people, but I want to be able to feel like I'm sharing this with more people. And that's what I did. So the practice is now virtual. I mean, we see people, my team and I, all over the world, which is pretty amazing that we now have that ability through things like Zoom and Skype. But I got into this because at 17 years old, there was no answer for me. I got extremely sick. I woke up literally one day. My body was shutting down. My immune system was literally shutting down. My glands were swollen. My heart rate was 150, 160 beats per minute, just walking up a flight of stairs. And simply put, even though I went to see the best doctors in the world, medical doctors, they had no idea what was wrong with me. They knew I was sick. They could see I was sick. I was struggling, but they didn't know how to help me. So that set off 2 years of just kind of figuring out, what do we do now after seeing this many specialists? So I got very much into reading about alternative medicine and natural health. This was summer about the mid-90s when I was in high school. I got sick my senior year. And what I did was, and again, there was no real internet, not least where I always say where I'm from, in Medford, Massachusetts. But I started seeing more practitioners. I started learning more about this. Ultimately, I met a mentor that taught me how to combine functional medicine lab testing. I can talk about what that is. You can do it right at home. I combined that with what's called Ayurvedic medicine. That's starting to learn about balance, your body and balance, and your body type and stress and digestion. I combine that also with reducing stress, and that's a big one for many of us. So you have to work on both the mind and the body. And when I did that, I finally healed. And now I was diagnosed previously with Addison's disease and rheumatoid arthritis, type 2 diabetes, POTS syndrome, all sorts of different things. And I'm fortunate to say that don't have any of those today. I feel better than ever, more than 20 years later. And it took a lot to open my eyes, and now my job is to share that with the world. And my formal degree is a doctor of naturopathy, which is essentially a natural health doctor.
Sure. And how different was that road than the traditional road? And that's what you were hitting your head against when you were just going through the system?
Well, I was, but it's all I knew. So I didn't, no one could figure it out. I saw the best of the best, the most brilliant people in the world, and they just had no idea how to help me. So at that point, you don't know of anything else. So that's where that kind of like that cognitive dissonance comes in. You're like, well, they don't know how to help me, but nobody knows how to help me. So I guess this is it for the rest of my life. And luckily, I was just the oldest born, stubborn, kid. And I said, it's just not good enough. And there was some very depressing moments, and they lasted for many months. And that's because when people tell you it's all in your head, or we're just gonna have to wait and see, or hopefully, they actually told me, if you get worse, then we'll know how to help you. And I was like, well, I'd rather not. My whole body's shutting down. I was diagnosed with the diseases I just mentioned because I would go to, let's say a naturopathic doctor or acupuncturist. They would run labs, and then I would take them to my primary care, and they would say, oh, we'll do these, these more fancy tests, that's called the ACT STIM test and all of those. And they're like, oh, actually, yeah, you have Addison's disease. You can't produce cortisol. Oh, you have rheumatoid arthritis, but you don't look like you have rheumatoid arthritis. I was like, well, what's a person with rheumatoid arthritis supposed to look like? They just never tested for those things. So yes, I went the pharmaceutical route, but I realized that I'm actually not better. I'm medicated. And if I ever come off these medications, the disease is still there. And so for whatever reason, I just said, I can't, this isn't real. And I knew that people who were this sick, they weren't going to live a very long life. So I committed my life to finding that answer for myself. And then eventually, in the process, learned a lot that I could share with others.
Okay. That's awesome. What would you say along that path to where you are now was the most difficult and challenging time? And I know that it must have been tough just hearing, well, come back or this and that, but in establishing, and I like to focus more on on the business aspect. So in establishing your business, what kind of things did you come up against that would have really been roadblocks that may have set a lot of people back?
Well, there's a couple things. So senior year of high school, just think about it for any test. A lot of people in the insurance world, they have to take different series of tests, exams, those types of things. I pride myself on doing well in school, and I try to do well. I was just a perfectionist. Like I just pushed myself so hard, part of the reason I got that sick. But what happened was I had massive brain fog. And unless you've ever experienced it, you just can't recall all the things that you knew that you used to know. And so I would sit for the SATs and I'd be in a full sweat. I'd have a fever of like 103 degrees, brain fog. And I'm so upset with myself, so down on myself, because I'm like, I know these answers. I just can't think of them. And so unfortunately that held me back. I mean, it didn't hold me back. It's all part of our journey, right? And so then in college, I'm trying to do well as well, but I realized that I can't go out 3 nights a week with my buddies, because if I do, I get sick. I get flu-like symptoms. I get worn down. And then when I make it into the workplace, luckily for me, I was able to design a schedule where I didn't work really early mornings at 22 years old, because my mind didn't wake up until 10, 11 a.m. So I had to fix all of that. And so believe me, if anybody's struggling with low energy, low vitality, depression, anxiety, overwhelm, irritability, I was there. I mean, my body never woke up because of no cortisol. Cortisol is what wakes you up in the morning. I know we talk about it as bad sometimes, but without it, you just don't stop producing melatonin a lot of the time. You just keep on going. So for me, it was just total lack of energy, fatigue, worse than you could really imagine.
Wow. And then, so along that path, then you went and trained under somebody, or how did that work?
Well, so that was a frustrating part as well. I would actually see many different practitioners, because I was open to learning, and I would start to get a little bit better. I really would. At 22 years old, I was getting better, but I wasn't there, because every 3 or 4 months I would relapse, and I would relapse for anywhere from 3 weeks to about 6 or 8 weeks, meaning I'd go right back in that really low energy. Think of having the flu. I mean, that's the best way I can describe it to someone. All your joints ache. You have a fever, you're sweating, any overexertion makes you more sick. You feel like you could sleep all day long. And then when you go to sleep at night, you're a complete insomniac. You can't fall asleep. So it's brutal. But I was learning more every time I would see a practitioner. I would run a lab, and all I needed was that one person that said, you know what, you're not far off. You just need to know how to combine this with the body type. And I said, oh, wow. Now I get it. Like, it's just, I had the knowledge. I didn't know how to put it all together. So that's what my mentor really did for me. But I also say all of that, even though I was sick for a period of 10 years, nobody should be sick for more than 4 months, 6 months maximum. I learned so much in the process of what didn't work that I feel I'm able to help more people, because I just went through a longer road. That's it.
Yeah. And you made it past 28, which is really important.
Made it past 28. And I mean, really feeling better every year. I really do.
Yeah. So who's your mentor? And
my mentor was Dr. Margaret Smith Pete. And the way that I met her is I would read hundreds of books a year. I still love to read. I mean, it's the way that, especially if you don't come from a lot of money, which I don't come from a lot of money, you can read books. It costs $5 a book. Now it's like $1.99 for Kindle if you want. So I read books. That's it. And when I could afford a lab test, I purchased a lab test. I would learn from that. So for me, it was crazy, but I would actually reach out sometimes to the authors, and most wouldn't respond. For whatever reason, she responded because the book really resonated with me. She was about a 3-hour bus ride to Maine. I hopped on a bus, and the rest is history. Yeah, we met at a Barnes & Noble. She met me about an hour south. For whatever reason, she felt like she wanted to connect with me. And now, I mean, I really I share her message as well.
Yeah. Well, I think something that gets overlooked is the value and importance of a mentor, because you can't take it to that next level and get to the highest of levels without having somebody take you there. Right. And typically it's going to be somebody who also had a mentor and brought them there. How impactful was that, and how did she elevate you?
I mean, I completely agree. If I found her, Now, again, maybe this wasn't my path, but if I had found her at 21, 22, I probably would have got better much faster, of course. But I don't know that my mind was also in the right place. That's a big thing. You have to actually be ready to accept a coach's or mentor's advice.
Right.
Because if you're not in the right space, you can hear the same words 10 years apart, and then they sound totally different. I'll go back and I'll reread a book I read 10 years ago. I'm like, oh, how did I miss that? I wasn't ready yet. It didn't make any sense. So, there's the acceptance, but, goes back to the Bruce Lee formula of why, how, what. And we all know the what. Like, you want to succeed in your particular business. That's what I want to do. I want to be successful. In your case, mentoring, teaching, coaching a lot of other insurance-based people, or at least sharing your knowledge with them.
Right.
And a lot of people have their why. The why is because I want to be successful. I want to be proud of what I want to do. I want to help people get the very best insurance for them that can maybe share some stories with them of how it affected them in their own life. And you want to support your family. Great. Well, the how, though, is how you get from your why to the what. And the how is that most people are missing. And it's just trial and error. So it's like, okay, well, I have low thyroid. Well, the only reason you have low thyroid right now, honestly, is because you've never met someone that can help you rebalance your thyroid. If you have low energy, it's because you don't know someone that can help you with the HPA axis, with your mitochondria, with your diet. I mean, like, all of these things are fixable. You just don't have the blueprint. The blueprint can be a book, a course, a podcast like we're listening to, or a coach. Now, the highest level is someone taking you by the hand and mentoring you. I mean, that's the highest level of saying,
absolutely,
okay, that didn't work. Yes, we hit an obstacle. It's not that we're far off. We just need to tweak it. You need somebody there to help you tweak even the best laid plan.
Yeah. And it's interesting. The how is so critical, but a lot of times we start with the how without knowing the what, right? And it's like, you got to work backwards. So figure out what that what is, and then work back from there,
and even your why. I mean, the why is going to carry you through the hard days.
Sure. Yeah. You got to remember that why. You got to have it up on the wall. Look at it every day.
Yes.
Yeah. Were there other mentors along the way? Other people that helped?
Well, I consider every one of the books that I read to be kind of a virtual mentor. And I mean, there were just thousands of books. And so I would get really down because, again, I couldn't find my answer, but I would read a book and I'm like, oh, well, maybe that'll work. And so it just gave me hope along the way, even if everyone didn't work, fine. But I always say, I mean, you can only try so many different things before you're going to succeed. I mean, really, like, there's only so many ways to do it. There's only so many ways or reasons why you have high cholesterol, high blood pressure, low thyroid. There's only so many reasons, and it's typically never more than a dozen. So the problem is that most people go after the how or the plan the same way every time. Okay, I want to lose weight. Well, what do I do? Well, I'm going to go on a low-carb diet, and I'm going to go run on a treadmill. Well, you've already tried that before, and it hasn't worked out for the past half dozen times. Let's do a new how, a different way to get to that end result. The why is the same. The what, how are you going to get there? But you need to change that along the way. So I had many mentors. I mean, really, like, even the first doctor, he didn't truly help me get well, but he opened my eyes to what functional medicine is. And that's the ability to use other labs besides blood work to figure out the underlying root causes of what ails you right now. So he was a huge mentor, but, didn't take me by the hand. Not a lot of doctors can. I mean, how can they do that? They see so many people every week. That's the tough thing about our medical industry. It's like it's like this factory system. We just pump people through. And that's the unfortunate thing. But that's why if you hire a health coach, an integrative health practitioner, or a business coach, it's their job and responsibility to make sure you succeed.
Yeah. And how important is that preventative maintenance, I think, is what we're going to eventually get at here, to ensuring that you're in the right space where you don't need to go and get the medicine to treat the problem, right? Or the symptoms.
Yes. I mean, that's the thing, is like rheumatoid arthritis, autoimmune, migraines, psoriasis, they don't happen overnight. You see the symptom what seems like overnight, but I have something called the rain barrel effect. The rain barrel effect is it slowly fills up over the years. So why at 17 did I get sick? Well, the same reason someone else at 47 years old gets sick. I just got sick a lot faster. I filled up my rain barrel a whole lot faster. I mean, that's the truth. So the only way to get well, I like to look at it like this. Okay, you're in a boat, let's just say a rowboat, and it has a leak. So you can keep bailing out the water, which is what most people do, and it just fills back up. Now, if you take a day off, a couple days off, it keeps filling back up. Now, the great thing is this, though. You need to patch the boat, but you still need to bail the water. So you have to do actually both. So that's why in our practice, what we do is we don't want you to suffer. So it's going to take about, let's say, 12 to 16 weeks to really rebalance the body. So over that time, we will help you reduce those symptoms. It's kind of like in your business. All right, you see glaring energy leaks, as we call it, or issues in the business. Fix those immediately. Like for example, a contact page on a website that shows an error, like that needs to be fixed immediately. Right. While you're also helping to get people more clients. Like, yes, but you can't help them get more clients if they can't even contact you, or you don't check your email except for once a week. So like we like to do both, and it's the same thing in really any industry.
Prioritization.
Yes,
you've got to prioritize. In this space, it's highly reactive, right? You have clients coming in, you have turnover with staff, you have staff at different levels of knowledge. So everybody's constantly, potentially, if you don't have it set up right, interrupting. And so as the owner or the leader, it's very difficult to move the needle because, it's this, if you adhere or if you acknowledge all of these interruptions, or maybe take on these interruptions, then that boat just keeps filling, right? You're not patching it.
Absolutely. And that's why you just need to hire that coach or whoever it might be, because once you get to an expert level where you've already succeeded, you look down on everything, not in a condescending way. You look down, meaning like you realize there's a small number of critical things that you have to do, where most people are doing hundreds of things, and you can't do hundreds of things well. But there's probably, again, 12 things you need to do. And when you do them, everything else falls into alignment. And it's the same with your health. It's not just diet. It's not just that. There are other things you have to look at. But there's not a million things to do. And when you focus then your energy on 5 things, 6 things, you actually get far greater results. You really do.
Yeah. So what are 5 things from a health perspective that people should be focusing on a daily basis?
Well, it does depend on their condition of where they're at. But again, most people are feeling fatigued right now, a little bit overweight, and they're feeling a little bit overwhelmed. So we look at the mind, the energy, and the body. And a lot of that has to do with hormone balance and has to do with digestion and a lot of those principles. So a few things that we look at is that in every single form of medicine, except conventional medicine, everyone always did something called a detoxification. They always detoxed every season. Now it's like, oh, well, we have detox teas and we have this detox and detox water. Yeah. There's no such thing as detox water. So like, that's all water. Marketing. It's water. Exactly.
Like,
they might put a little cucumber
in it. I was at the airport. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was at the airport and they had the Dasani, and then they had Smart Water. And the Smart Water is $1 more. And I grabbed the Smart Water just by instinct because it says Smart Water. And I look at it and it says, it's water with electrolytes. And well, electrolytes is just sugar, right? For all intents and purposes.
Minerals, yes.
Minerals, right? So, isn't it? I'm like, these are the same thing, but this one's $1 more because it says Smart on it.
Well, branding is a big part of it. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, for sure. And that's how you have to look at it, meaning that a tea is not going to detox your system. What we're really talking about, again, is that rain barrel effect. Think about it this way. We're in a world that most people don't even know, where the World Health Organization has now stated there's over 77,000 man-made chemicals in the environment. That means people look at they're like, oh, my grandparents, lived a long, healthy life or whatever it might be. Well, again, they were born in the 1920s, 30s, whatever it might be. The Industrial Revolution and really refrigeration and processed food and hydrogenated oil started more in the 1940s and 50s. So now there's over 77,000 chemicals in the environment. The average person leaves their house with about being exposed to 126 different chemicals. These chemicals, half of which have been known to cause cancer, all sorts of inflammation in the body, but we never think about that. So what we do on a nightly basis, and I don't know how in depth you want to get with this, but really the body was meant to work in 2 rhythms. So if you take away 2 things, it's 2 rhythms. So the body's meant to be up from about sunrise to sunset. And that it's working day. Right. Let's just say 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. But it's actually meant to shut down after that. And for a lot of people that are self-employed, or a lot of the people that you're speaking with as well, most are probably running their own show. You could work, 16 hours out of your 16 hours waking. And the problem is that you're keeping cortisol levels elevated. You're not getting to a deep level of sleep. You're probably eating close to bed, or you're eating sporadically during the day. Your body's supposed to eat at normal intervals during the day, 2 to 3 meals per day. Typically, we say 2 decent-sized meals and maybe a lighter breakfast. But you're supposed to turn it off from 7 to 7. That's the bigger point. And you're supposed to essentially fast from 7 to 7. And that's so your body can clean house, that it can literally get all of the stuff that you just took in, chemicals, food byproduct, etc., so that it does not wear down and tax the body. And we're not doing that. And the other big thing is every 12 weeks, every season, if you look into this, your body does great by just slowing down for a couple of days and removing the excess, emptying that rain barrel. And it's the closest thing we have right now to the fountain of youth, for sure.
Yeah, we can do these days where we're working 16 hours. We get to the end. We haven't eaten anything in the last 8 hours. We're starving. There's nothing open at 9. So you go down and grab some crappy fast food or whatever. And I try to avoid fast food at all costs, but that's where we get stuck in this cycle, and it doesn't nourish you. And now it's sitting in your gut all night, and just
that's right.
And
it's typically comfort food. You're like, I worked a hard day. I want to enjoy a meal or whatever it might be. First of all, it's too late at night. And then it doesn't get processed 2-3 hours before bed. So it does throw off your sleep, like you just spoke about. Even if you fall asleep, alcohol is the same thing. I mean, people drink alcohol sometimes to be able to fall asleep better. But the problem is you might get to sleep faster, but it affects your blood sugar throughout the night. You don't get into a deeper level of sleep. So you're going to wake up groggier, and it's going to throw off your eating and nutrition the next morning. You'll probably use caffeine more to boost your energy levels rather than naturally having those cortisol levels rise. And that could throw off a person's day. So, really what we preach is you don't need to go overboard, but you need to create rhythms and routines during your day. The world's not going to stop if you stop for 20 minutes for it to have lunch. Like, that's okay. You can do that. You can take maybe a 10-minute walk after lunch. Like, these are all little things that honestly do add up.
Mm-hmm. And we'll tell ourselves, and I hear it all the time, I'm pretty good about email now. Maybe the people that send me an email don't think so, but you could sit and it could be a full-time job just managing emails if you wanted to, right? Reactively handle emails. But I will typically, I wait till the end of the day. It's a low brain activity, and respond to them all, done, right? But if you sat there all day, so it's just interesting when you prioritize and doing the right things at the right time and using the resources that you have.
I mean, that's the biggest business tip. I mean, really right there is you just block it. You just chunk your day down. So you're not going to be able to reach me from about 8 a.m. to about 11:30 a.m. because that is, for me, creative work. I'm formulating products. I am doing podcasts. I'm shooting video, whatever it might be. But I'm using the brain power. And every time you get interrupted, it throws you off. So it only take 5 minutes for an email. Sure. But it takes you out of that creative place that you have, or just to get work done. So then after that, okay, now I can check email for a half hour. I don't let it expand to an hour. I check email for a half hour from 11:30 to 12, and I can do that. Then it's time for lunch, and then I can get back and I can respond to whatever I need to do. And then there might be, like on Tuesdays where I do interviews, it's from 2 to 4 p.m. and that's my block. And then yes, at the end of the day I do email as well. But the thing is too, for most people, they are responsive. You're just exactly right. We said that, rather than proactive. You need to set your day up to actually get more done. We all get the same 24 hours. And I would say too, the first person, and then you might disagree in your industry, but the first person you should really hire is someone to do your scheduling and your email, and just kind of like take care of 70%, 80% of your email, and then alert you when there is an email that actually needs your attention so that you can answer those at the end of the day. They might only need to be on your team for 2 hours a day, 4 hours a day. Money well spent, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I mean, there are so many options to find somebody virtually that can handle the email, scan through it, give you the important ones, figure that out. But we get tied down, like we have to control everything, right? We're in this society where I have to control everything. Something that's been really instrumental in, and I'm sure that you're going to agree, and I would like you to talk about this, but something that's been instrumental in changing my reactivity to things has been meditation. Meditation is huge from rebooting the rainbow wheel in here. And I can tell for me, those days where I don't wake up and meditate for 15 minutes or 20 minutes in the morning are a lot different, right? You got to defrag the hard drive. How important has that been for you?
Well, so with meditation for high performers, which I'm sure they're listening, that's who you have listening to your shows, like, how do I get better? How do I get better? If you talk about 2 10-minute meditations a day upon waking or within your first hour, and then within the last hour before bed, that to them seems like a waste of 20 minutes a day. So
Right.
the problem is it's short-sighted thinking. And that's why we always kind of like look at the moment. But what happens is if you give it that 10 minutes in the morning, so basically you frame your day, you have a starting and you have an end cap to your day. And then what it allows you then is to be less reactive during the day. You don't actually jump from problem to problem because you're more centered. And because you're more centered, you easily get way more back in 20 minutes of production per day. So for me, and you get better sleep, it boosts DHEA, which is a anti-aging hormone in the body, lowers cortisol levels. So, I mean, beyond just work benefits, you get massive health benefits. And we actually can't separate the two, because if you're unhealthy, there's no way you're 100% in terms of production. There's just no way. So what I found is, like, all of a sudden I got well, and I was like, where was all this energy? I mean, I don't remember ever having it. I don't remember at 14 years old having this much energy I have now. So there's a whole new world once you optimize your body. And again, it's not a lot, but it does take a little bit of your attention. You'll get back tenfold. You really will.
Yeah. Well, it's like with anything, the things that seem to be the most difficult to do are actually the ones that aren't that difficult and get us the greatest return. You know, working out, spend a half hour, an hour working out every day. You are going to do so much better than sitting around and working that extra hour, right? You're going to be more effective during that time. Doing the meditation. I mean, the meditation seems so hard, and even 5 minutes makes a difference. If I'm getting a little, the anxiety's picking up, my rain barrel's filling up throughout the day, I'll go, I'm going to be in my office. Nobody bother me, right? Go do the 5 minutes, come back, and I'm like, okay, bring it, and it changes everything.
You will probably make the right decision rather than the immediate have response that could get you in trouble. Yeah. So that's one more reason to do it.
It's added a filter. I have a better filter from that. What do you do to keep yourself accountable?
The only way that I've found to keep myself accountable is I have a pretty big team. I have about 30 people on my team, maybe a little bit more now, is I openly commit to all of the things that I'm doing and the dates that I'll do them by, so that my team says, okay, well, we're counting on you to do that. So what I have to do is just know what my limit is so that I just don't go overboard. And that's simply taking some trial and error. So now I say, okay, well, Wednesdays, I have my assistant schedules me all day. That's my all day where I see people in my practice all day long. But it's the only day. Then the other days, like we have a commitment today. We got on at this time, and that's when I'm doing an interview. Like, it's just, there's no blank space really in my calendar from about 7:30 a.m. Till about 5:30 at night. So now some of that is exercise time. Some of that is lunchtime, but everything is scheduled, because people always say, oh, well, I don't have time for that. Well, there's time for it. But again, you have to reshift priorities to make that. And then why 5:30? Well, I made a commitment many years ago, before. I have 2 young girls, 5 and 7 years old. And I said, there's a finite period of my life where they're actually going to be at home. So do they really want a dad who's out there pushing, or do they want a dad who's at home having dinner with them and then doing bath and books and all that crazy stuff? Well, that's what they want. So I make that commitment. And then at 7:30 at night, when they go to bed, if I need to then hop on a call or check an email, I'll do that. But that's not their time. And then I shut it down by 8 o'clock at the very latest. And then that's my wife's time. That's my wife and I's time from 8 to 10 o'clock. So again, there's time for everything. You have to schedule it.
Yeah. If you don't schedule it, then you don't stay accountable to yourself, and then the wheels come off. You're just, again, you move back towards that reactivity. I don't know somebody said, I don't know if it was Einstein or somebody quoted, that any perfect system is going to eventually, if it's not monitored, tracked and measured, is going to move towards anarchy. I mean, it's what happens if you don't keep.
Well, that, and I created. Sorry to interrupt you, but
go.
Don't think of that as static. I change my schedule every 90 days. So I have a 90-day plan, and I work the plan, and I say, oh, well, I actually need more time for this. What else is going to shift? So that's what I do. And that, again, changes based on where I'm at for that kind of 12-week period of time. So never think of anything, oh, this has to be the rest of my life. No, it can be for the next 12 weeks, but you have to give it some time to actually work. That's
awesome. What about, how have you handled Gotta minutes? Because I know that all day long, there's always an issue.
Yes.
Right. And so if I want to be I'm the attentive boss and I want to be able to help, but I can't get anything done if I'm handling every Gotta minute. How have you handled that? And how could that potentially help the folks that are listening?
Yeah, it goes back to, let's say you're a solo entrepreneur, then it's like you're dealing with emails. That's kind of your Gotta minute, or calls when they come in. But with your team, you have to do the same thing. So I have open hours. So here's when you get a hold of me. There should be no emergencies in your business.
Right.
If there's an emergency, they text me. That's the only way you're going to get a hold of me. So I respond before 8 a.m. I respond around the lunchtime hour. Then we have set meetings. We have Monday, Thursday team meetings. And then from there, whenever we need it, then we'll set it up at those specific times.
Yeah. And you get used to it. I used to get anxiety every time the phone buzzed. But as you become better at scheduling everything, I think that you don't need to worry about that as they pile up, right? You're just, hey, it's not an emergency. It's not the end of the world.
Well, and you can play through. Yeah, you want to play through the worst case scenarios. That's the thing is, what is the worst case scenario if I don't respond to this? And so if it's really bad, well, then your assistant or you or even your phone does a VIP. Those people pop up and the rest of the people don't. So there's so many systems that you can create, but I'll tell you this, you will never be able to take it to that next level doing what you're doing right now. That goes for me, that goes for you. If we want to get to that next level, whatever it is, we can't do what we're doing right now. So we have to then optimize that much more, and simply something has to give, because you only have, really, you shouldn't be working more than 10 hours a day. 10 hours is enough. From your 7 to 7, pick 10 hours. The rest is for your lunch, your exercise.
There's always going to be more. Yeah.
Always. You could always do more. That's the thing. And so that's okay. As long as you have your priority list for the day and it's scheduled, you'll know what can wait and what has to get done.
Yeah. How important is it to set those expectations with your team? Did you set expectations and examples of, look, this is an emergency. All of these things down here are not.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the other thing too is the biggest thing I can tell people, and this took me the longest to get, is that I will reinvest in my team. If I already know where I'm looking to go, I know I can't do it alone. So what I have to decide is, how much money do I need right now financially to take care of my family and myself? And then if I can live on that, let me invest in my team. And what you're really saying is, I believe in me and my concept, so I believe we can grow this. And because of that, you hire more people that can do what you do. That's the whole thing. And even you could hire someone who wants to be like you, whether they're a junior executive, whatever it might be. They just shadow you. They just listen to your conversations, as long as that's not breaking confidentiality. And then they are going to be able to help you manage your clients, because you'll CC them on an email. And I see that all the time. Your top level attorneys and accountants, they have someone that they're essentially training, and then they can get you the answer super fast. So that's what I would do is reinvest. It's investing in yourself. You have to get more time. And the only way that you buy more time and more speed is by having other people help you along the way. And the great thing is, you're giving them a job. You're giving them employment. You're doing something good for others too.
That is great. It's awesome. And creating the empowerment for them, right? I think responding to every Gotta minute, doing all these little things actually doesn't help your staff either, because it just creates that crutch, right? They need to be able to think, figure things out. And if they can't, then maybe it's not a good fit.
That we have an internal FAQ page, frequently asked questions, and it's probably up to 60, 70 right now. Those are the most commonly asked questions. And 80% of all the questions you get are going to be answered by those.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Just create a Word document that your assistant has with a response that they personalize just a little bit. And then you just have all that. And then if they come back with an answer they don't have, that's okay. You answered that at your noon or your 4:30 hour. And then what does your assistant do? They add it to that FAQ. And so that is the best way to do it.
That's a great little knowledge nugget right there. Just an easy tactic to implement in the business that you could implement today, because everybody here is going to be asked something today.
Yes, and it takes an extra, 3 minutes to create that at the time. Just keep the Word document open. But that saves you then. It's not even time eventually. It's just simply bandwidth. It just wears you down. You know, it's like that one drop of water on your forehead every single minute. No big deal. One drop. It just breaks you down over time to the point where you don't want to be doing this anymore. You don't want to get to that point. So do these things now that are simple systems that you can replicate over and over, because you have to replicate yourself, right? That's the only way to achieve more success in anything. How do I see more people in my practice? Well, I created a certification, health coaching certification, that now I have over 1,000 health coaches, integrative health practitioners, that can then help more people. Because again, I can't see every single person.
Right.
And it's not to their benefit either, because I wouldn't be able to do all the follow-ups. So that's what I do.
Eventually there isn't capacity, right? In your 168 hours that you have out of your week. So, so that let's talk about that. How or what type of things could the audience here, the dudes and dudettes out there, benefit from in seeing one of your practitioners, or where can they find you? How can they do this?
So what we do is we offer online virtual-based practice at equilibriumnutrition.com. And what we do is, let's say someone was struggling with food sensitivities or bloating or gas, digestive issues, hormone, thyroid, migraines, skin, you name it. There's actually lab tests you can run. One of them's the starter kit that looks at gut digestion, your vitamin level. So there's no guesswork in, are you getting enough nutrition from your diet? And so they can run labs. They can do them right at home. We ship to 25 countries around the world, and you get a personalized wellness plan from that. But, you know, what you could do too, if you're not ready to do that, you could do something like a functional medicine detox. And that is one of those things that's going to set you up with an anti-inflammatory plan, balancing hormones and blood sugar, all those great things from a healthy level. But if this is brand new to people, my podcast is the Cabral Concept, and I wrote a book called The Rain Barrel Effect. And those are essentially free. It's a way to start. If this is brand new, I just recommend starting there. Just kind of learn more. And like I said before, if you don't have your health, you can't be the best at anything you do. And that doesn't include work. That means being a good parent to your kids. If you don't have energy, you're going to be a whole lot more overwhelmed and frustrated and not as patient. So, you know, it helps you in all areas of life. And it's just something that I hope to be able to share with as many people as possible.
That's awesome. One quick thing I did see on your website, I was over there and I saw there's some recipes for detox drinks, all kinds of different things. What would be a quick thing that somebody could, besides maybe the book and I'm sure they're going to listen to the podcast now, but like a quick, is there a detox that they can do? Is there something that if somebody wants to take action now that you?
Yes. There's a detox at Equilibrium Nutrition, and there's also a free detox course. So if you go to equilibriumnutrition.com/detox-course, it actually teaches you from top to bottom how to get, I mean, I'm telling you, most people, that's why I created this, will get about 80% out of what they would with working even with a practitioner. That's why I created this, so that you could at least get 80% of the results, because not everybody's going to see a practitioner. Not everybody's going to run a lab, even though I think that they should, but still they may not. So that's a good place to start for that. And then the smoothie download. I mean, again, these things are pretty much free, if not free. Any one of my podcast pages, that's just stephencabral.com/podcast. Just scroll down and you'll be able to see the smoothie PDF, the green drink one, and all those types of ones to get people into it. But we work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and you'll see a remarkable difference once you start to implement these things in your life.
And I think to help people get over the hump, it's one of these things that you just have to, you can't expect some immediate result tomorrow. You're not fixed, but it's the reverse rain barrel, right? You're slowly emptying that barrel to get back to where you were before.
Well, and and I always like to say that there's no alternative, meaning like there's no alternative to alternative medicine. And that's because you are on track. I mean, people are on track. 2/3 of all Americans will die at an early age because of heart disease, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes complications, or cancer. But if you can make it past any one of those four, you have a very good chance of living not only a long life, but an actual healthy one where you're not suffering in old age. Meaning we have a lot of people who live now into their 70s, but I mean, the average age actually went down by 1 year, which is very disturbing, especially with all this modern-based technology. But what we do is we are able to keep people alive longer because of medication. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but people are suffering from their 40s on, and they're on medications, and they're not feeling their best, and they're walking around, through life like a zombie. But it doesn't have to be that way. Like, there really is another way to do this. And believe it or not, there's underlying root causes that manifest as what we call diseases. And so once you begin to rebalance those, that disease can't live in your healthy body.
Right. All that inflammation, right, that's caused by all these processed foods. We were not designed as hunter-gatherers to eat Doritos.
We sit all day, we eat Doritos, we stare at screens.
Drink Cokes.
I mean, there's so much. We, consume, like just the toothpaste has triclosan in it. When you shower, there's chlorine vapors coming out of it. So that's why, that's also why if this is brand new, just start with the podcast. Just start to learn about this, because it's going to be too all over. Like, for sure, if this is brand new to people, it's going to seem all over the place. But there is a method to it, and I didn't know it either. But the truth is that it's there whether we like it or not. It affects us whether we like it or not. And so that's why I always tell people, don't be overwhelmed by everything that you could do. Simply start to work the process. Be 80% to 90%. I still have, a cheat meal once a week for sure. Like, I still enjoy pasta and bread, and I'm going to have that, and I'm going to enjoy it. And I'm not going to feel bad about it at all. And I'm not going to worry about what's in it. And then I'm going to go back. Yeah, exactly. It's delicious. And so then I'm going to go back and I'm going to eat healthy food again. Like, and if I miss a day of exercise, well, there's 365 days in a year. If I consistently miss, that's an issue. But I'm not going to beat myself up over missing one day because there was a school event or I had to work late. Okay, that's one day. If it starts to happen, that's an issue.
Yeah. We're so hard on ourselves sometimes. We'll just, I missed it, I'm the worst, and use it as the excuse to not go. And then all of a sudden you're off the rails. So you can always hop back on. Well, is there anything that you think I missed that you'd like to share with the audience, or?
Well, I just want to reiterate the point that for a lot of people listening to this, it's maybe the first time hearing about just other methodologies of health. And that is that this, though, there's no one out there that can't overcome whatever wellness or health-based issue they're dealing with right now. We've met with over 250,000 people. And that's not to say you even need to work with us. You can find a integrative health practitioner in your area. You can find a functional medicine doctor in your area. You can begin to explore this. So if you're dealing with a digestive issue, autoimmune, acid reflux, migraines, skin issues, whatever, or your child is, there is a reason why. There's always a reason why. I mean, we can figure our way out of a business situation. Why can't we figure out our way out of a health situation? It's another problem that we're able to solve. And it's not just genetic. People say over and over, well, my dad had high cholesterol, his father had high cholesterol, or my mom had low thyroid, I have low thyroid. Sure, yes, that is in your genetics. You got it at 32 years old. Why didn't you have it at 16? You had the same genetics. You had the same exact DNA.
Yeah,
the problem was you turned it on. You live more life. Rain barrel filled up. So remember, we can empty that rain barrel. We can reverse the dis-ease process in the body.
So awesome. So awesome. Well, great. One more time, the website.
My personal website is stevencabral.com. You'll find the podcast there. It's the Cabral Concept. And then the labs, the detox, all of the things that you can actually do then to take control of your wellness, your health, your weight loss are at equilibriumnutrition.com.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Cabral, for coming on. I guess it's the insurance dude today, but Jason will be back on the next episode. 4 sick kids, and I wouldn't want to be over at that house right now.
That is tough. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it. We'll see you next time.
Take care.
Hey, you've got to check out the Insurance Dude's Inner Circle coming soon, where you get extended interviews as well as live coffee talks in our private Facebook group. Join the mailing list today at theinsurancedudespodcast.com. Hey, thanks for checking out the Insurance Dudes. Hey, please subscribe. We got some really great stuff coming out.